Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Chicago, in person and at home. My name is Liz Tolbert. I use she, her pronouns. I am the Director of Religious Education, and I am honored to welcome you to worship this morning, along with our worship team, guest Reverend Don Abram, storyteller, myself, Liz Tolbert, and music director, Dr. Adam O'Dell, along with United Voices Chicago. First Unitarian Church has been a home for progressive religion in Chicago beyond 1836. The church sits on the western shore of Lake Michigan, south of the Chicago River. We honor the indigenous peoples for whom these are unceded ancestral homelands, as well as the diverse and vibrant indigenous American communities who make their home here today. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound by not the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share, and the mission to grow our souls and heal the world. Whether you just stepped into this church for the first time or the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whether you have a PhD, a GED, or no degree, you are welcome here. No matter your race, or who you love, or how much money you do or don't have, you are welcome here. If you are a visitor, we are excited to have you with us. Please let us know that you are here by filling out a visitor card and dropping it off in the offering plate.
I'm here to announce one special event that we have this week, which is a community breakfast that our coming of age group is hosting here in Chrismore Parlor this Saturday at 9:30 a.m. This is a great chance for us to all come together as a community, and we've invited neighbors who are in need of a hot meal, so we're hoping to be of service and also have a warm time together this Saturday at 9:30. There's opportunity to bring food and to help out. If you're interested in that, please talk to me after, and we would love to see you Saturday.
Please join us after this service in Chrismore Parlor, up the stairs to your left, for refreshments and good conversation. Also, this Wednesday at 6 p.m., please join us for the community meal here at Chrismore Parlor. Thank you. Please join me in reading our covenant as we light our chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and help one another.
Good morning. My name is Alex Bravos. I use any, all pronouns. I am the conductor of the Albany Park Neighborhood Choir with Uniting Voices Chicago. Uniting Voices Chicago, formerly known as Chicago Children's Choir, was founded about 69, just about 70 years ago, right here at First Unitarian Church. So we're very proud to be back in this space and to be part of this service this morning. We are going to get started with a piece titled Sie und Hert die Wächter singen by J.S. Bach. Please enjoy.
The other week, I was walking here back from the Med Bakery. I was clutching my coffee and a croissant in a bag, and I saw my professor, whose class I'm in about testimony and witness this quarter, and we smiled at each other, and we waved. And then I realized I wanted to tell her that I was gonna come to office hours that week, so I turned around and I said, I'm gonna come to, as we were having that exchange, and I was gonna just say it briefly, continue on my way back to church. I saw her starting to get nervous, like she had something to say, but I didn't really process it until she said, "Watch out." I stopped, and I found that right next to my foot was a step that I was just about to trip over and probably hurt myself. And that's why we need testimony, because we are all always coming from different viewpoints, from our different positions. We have different perspectives, and that gives us a responsibility to speak from our experience. We see different things, we hear different things, feel, experience different things. So we have a responsibility to share from that experience, and especially we have a responsibility to listen when others are sharing from their experience, not only because we value and love those precious people, we value and love each precious person. We have a responsibility to listen curiously and generously to others' experience, also because it just might protect or even save us all. So I want to call us to worship today with words that some of our children and youth may be familiar with, that are heard in Unitarian Universalist religious education classrooms and camps around the country, words of author and UU religious educator Lila Ibrahim. It's a blessing each of us were born. It matters what we do. What each of us knows about God is a piece of the truth, and we don't have to do it alone. Come, let us worship.
Please rise in body or spirit. Our opening hymn is Gather the Spirit, 347 in your gray hymnal.
Gather the Spirit, harvest its power. All separate fires will kindle and flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid to store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion
At this time, I would like to invite any young people up to the front with me. Good morning, guys. Alrighty. So the title of the story today is called The Mystery of the Ordinary Seed. Once in a neighborhood very much like this one, there lived a young lady who loves to ask why. She asked why the sky was blue, why the squirrels chattered so loudly, and why her grandmother always hummed while she baked in the kitchen. One Saturday morning, her grandmother handed her a small, brown, shriveled object that looked like a tiny, dusty pebble. "What is this?" the girl asked, turning it over in her palm. "That," her grandmother said with a twinkle in her eye, "is a maybe." The girl was confused. "It doesn't look like a maybe. It looks like a bit of dirt." "Right now, it is quiet," her grandmother explained. "But inside that little shell is a giant question waiting for an answer. Curiosity is the water that helps it grow. If we are curious enough to take care of it, we'll get to find out what it wants to become." They went out to the garden and tucked the maybe into the dark, cool earth. Every day, the girl visited the spot. At first, she was impatient. She wanted to see the answer right away. But then she waited and started to notice things that she had never seen before while she waited. She noticed how the morning dew set on the grass like diamonds. She noticed the way the sunlight crawled across the fence as the day went by. She even started to wonder what the worms were thinking as they wiggled through the soil. Her curiosity was awakening, and the more she wondered, the more beautiful the world seemed. One morning, a tiny speck of bright green poked through the dirt. It wasn't a pebble anymore. It was a sprout. "Grandma, the maybe is saying something," she shouted. As the weeks passed, the sprout grew taller and stronger, eventually blooming into a vibrant golden sunflower that reached for the sky. The girl realized that the curiosity isn't just about finding one answer. It's about keeping your heart open to the wonders that are hidden in plain sight. Every person we meet, every flower we see, and every star in the sky is a maybe, waiting for us to ask. Who are you, and how do you work? In our church family, we carry the same spirit. Like lighting a flame, curiosity warms our minds and lights up the dark corners of what we don't know yet. So today, I want you to look around, find one thing you've seen 100 times, maybe a leaf, maybe a chair, or maybe even your own hand, and ask it a question. You might be surprised the story it tells you. Thank you. Now we'll send the children off to their classes with love, and we invite you to turn and greet your neighbor.
Berkson. I've been a member of First U since 2014, and I started coming to this church in the spring of 2012 because I took a class called Spirituality and Social Work Practice with a UU professor named Stan McCracken at the Crown School of Social Work. I thought it would help because I'm an atheist, and I grew up in an atheist family, and so weaving my therapy clients' spiritual beliefs into their healing work was like my biggest blind spot. Our first assignment in that class was to take an online quiz matching our beliefs with the world's religions. And I didn't think it would match me to anything. Thank you. I didn't think it would match me to anything, but it matched me 100% with atheism, with secular humanism, and with something called Unitarian Universalism, which I'd never heard of. In class, someone asked what Unitarian Universalism was, and Professor McCracken explained that every time he teaches this class, the majority of social work students match with UU in their top 3 belief systems. And he said, if any of you are curious, First Unitarian is actually right here on this campus if you want to wander in on a Sunday and find out more about it. He told us that every time he teaches the class, he accidentally converts someone to UUism. And that quarter, I was the convert. For the first year and a half, every 3 months or so, I sat I snuck in late and sat in the back, and I never gave my information to Bobby because it felt too scary. I grew up next door to Wheaton, which at one point had the most churches per square mile in the Guinness Book of World Records. So I was proselytized regularly from a young age, and I did not trust such a churchy-looking church. Eventually, I grew to trust this community. At the end of 2013 and a tough year of divorce, I joined the choir, not realizing that back then this meant that I would have to attend every single Sunday with the choir. But between the amazing late music director Amanda Thomas and the lifelong friends that I made in choir, I never regretted that decision. This church and the people in it, and especially the choir, have held me in love and growth as I rebuilt my life after that divorce, as I became a community organizer, and as I became disabled. I asked for financial assistance from this church discretionary fund several years in a row when my health was particularly bad. This church has really been here for me. I'm now in my era of answers for my health with accurate diagnoses and treatments that actually make me feel better. And I'm happy beyond words to feel more like myself and to be able to be involved and contribute to this community in ways I used to. Some years when things were really bad, I was only able to give $50 each year for the pledge drive to cover the cost of my membership with the UUA. Other pledge drives, I've been able to give more. This year, I've been giving in other ways too, like in coordinating the prom fundraiser, which, by the way, raised about $3,000 of net profit for this church. Many of you have come up to me to thank me for my leadership with the prom fundraiser. But here's the thing. That prom was a success, not necessarily because of me, but because we had 39 volunteers involved working on it. 39. And that's how we're going to turn the finances of this church around and grow the church that we want to be part of, by everyone giving what they can in the ways that they can. And that starts with your pledge. It doesn't end with your pledge, but that's where it starts. Everything we do here, not just on Sundays, but every day of the week, is only possible with the support of the entire congregation. It will take every one of us contributing in order to reach our goals for the next year. Please make your pledge today, and no pledge is too small. There are 2 ways to pledge. You can stop by the table in the back, ask any questions you may have. Margie's waving her hand over there, you can talk to her, and you can fill out your form, or you can go on the website and click on Giving to First U. Thank you.
Good morning. We now take up our weekly offering. Your generosity supports the important ministries of this church. Each month, we choose a community partner with whom we share our collection 50-50. This month, our partner is La Tiendita. La Tiendita, or the Little Store, is part of a mutual aid group that aims to challenge the narrative that pits lifelong Chicagoans against newly arrived immigrants by working to build a city strong and resilient enough to care for all who call it home. La Tiendita runs a free store and supports a food pantry, providing 150 and more families with free food, clothing, diapers, toiletries, and more every week. Thank you for your generosity toward our shared ministry in this church and in the world. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
Please rise in body or spirit for the singing of our centering song. I'll sing it once through and then invite you all to join me. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open for the possibilities. So that's the first part. The second part goes like this. Aye, 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 aye. Be open. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Aye, 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 yeah, here's some music nerds in the crowd. If you have some harmonies, feel free to add them. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Be open for something wonderful to happen. Be open to the possibilities. Aye, 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 Beautiful. Please consider joining the choir and be seated so that you may continue our worship.
We gather each week here because we don't have to do it alone. We come here to share life together, the joys and the sorrows and everything in between. And we are going to try something a little bit new today. So first I'm going to lift up just a few joys that were shared, and then if you have a joy or a sorrow that's in your heart today, after I read these, you'll be invited to come forward and silently light a candle, and we'll hold those in silent reflection for a few minutes. First, a joy from Kent Richmond. A heartfelt thanks goes out to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, the Herbie Hancock Institute, the Chicago Jazz Alliance, the Jazz Institute of Chicago, and the First Unitarian Church of Chicago for making Chicago as host city for the 2026 International Jazz Day celebration, the most successful of all time. Chicago had by far the most events and larger audiences than ever before. International Jazz Day was joyfully and peacefully celebrated in all 50 states and 196 countries worldwide. And by hosting the Greg Ward Quartet in our sanctuary, our congregation was part of these festivities, and we should congratulate ourselves for our successful participation. Thank you, Kent. A joy from Tony. My semester is wrapping up. It has been a very hard semester, but I'm happy I'll end strong. We are with you, Tony. And a joy from Inez. My joy is that I got new shoes. We are with you, Inez. We celebrate together. And at this time, if you have a joy or a sorrow that's on your heart, you're invited to come forward up the center aisle and light one of these candles if that would feel like a good thing to do. If you can't get up the chancel steps, I can bring you a candle. If you can't get up here at all, if you want to raise your hand, I'll bring you a candle. But come on forward if you'd like to light a candle. This is something that we might try occasionally going forward. We just thought we'd give it a try today. So come on up. for all these joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts, that come with us, that we share with each other or keep silently. This is why we come together in community, and we will hold each other in our care until the next time.
Paul Robeson by Gwendolyn Brooks. That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day. The major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge and other symptoms of an old despond. Warning in music words devout and large that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond.
Our final piece for you is an African American spiritual titled "We Shall Walk Through the Valley in Peace." This is arranged by Moses Hogan. Please enjoy.
words of the prolific and prophetic Lucille Clifton, come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Why don't you do me a favor this Sunday morning, if you're not too shy, and tap the person next to you and say, we're still here. Oh, come on, you can do better than that. Put your good preacher voice on and tap the other neighbor and say, neighbor, we're still here. All right, I feel a little bit better now. Let me rush to express my unadulterated and sincere gratitude to First Unitarian Church of Chicago for the opportunity to offer what I hope to be a life-giving and life-affirming sermonic offering. It is indeed an irrefutable and immutable honor to stand behind this solemn and storied sacred desk. I extend a heartfelt gratitude to the staff, leadership, and to this compelling cadre of community that has gathered. Now, first you, we're just becoming acquainted, so if you don't mind, if you could permit me, let me share that I come from a pew-talking, hand-clapping, toe-tapping kind of church on the south side of Chicago. So as we promenade through the selected passage today, I invite you to talk back to your boy. Don't let the refined rhetoric fool you. I'm just a melodied messenger from the hood. Your noise won't unsettle me. Your shout won't shudder me. So once again, as you hear this sermonic offering, go ahead and talk back to your boy. And with that said, it brings me great delight to say these three words. It's the famous words that any Black Baptist preacher would say, and that is, it's preaching time. So come and go with me to the Gospel according to Mark, the 16th chapter. I'll be reading out of the Christian text. We'll begin with the 9th verse and conclude with the 14th verse. I'll be reading from the New King James Version, and it reads thusly. Now, when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 demons. She went and told those who had been with him as they mourned and wept. And when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they did not believe. After that, he appeared in another form to 2 of them as they walked into the country. And they went and told it to the rest, but they did not believe them either. Later, he appeared to the 11 as they sat at the table, and he rebuked their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they did not believe those who had seen him after he had risen. For the time that is ours to share together, I'd like to tag the title of this sermonic offering as Run and Tell That. The pericope proffered for our collective pondering points us to a profound and prolific testimony from a woman named Mary Magdalene. Shortly after bearing witness to the gruesome and grotesque state-sanctioned murder of the historical Jesus, Mary is charged with the unprecedented task of delivering news that would shake the very foundation of what they thought was final. News that, depending on how you understand it, was in fact death-defying. It's what some would call resurrection. In an onslaught of shock and awe, Mary Magdalene of the mid-sized town Magdala was commissioned to cement her once circumscribed celebrity into the annals of history. In a split second, Mary answered a consequential call that would cause her story to live on in infamy and even controversy. One such controversy that you may be familiar with as scholars and supposed theologians attempted to explain Mary's closeness to Jesus was the notion that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. But let me be clear, there is no evidence in the biblical text to support that assertion. That characterization emerges later, shaped more by patriarchal projection than by exegetical precision. And yet, despite this distortion, despite the attempts to diminish her, few in contemporary discourse dispute the fact that she was among the first to bear witness to the risen Jesus. Mary's positionality as a preeminent preacher, one to first proclaim what she had experienced and encountered, is often upheld. It is her testimony that serves as the proverbial preamble to a movement of meaning-making and prophetic proclamation. It is Mary's embodied encounter that serves as the linchpin of this age-old story. But before we belt out the lyrics to Who Run the World, Girls, or we began to sing I'm Every Woman, can I tell you something? Come in, lean close. The veracity of Mary's verbal account was not always a foregone conclusion. Her place as a groundbreaking luminary was not always uncontested. With the luxury of hindsight, one could conveniently gloss over the reality of Mary's positionality. Do you mind if I preach it? Even as one of the few ride-or-die followers of Jesus, her words and lived experiences were still subject to the patriarchal, paternalistic, and patronizing proclivities of some men. What do you mean, preacher? I've been waiting all day for you to pose that point of inquiry. The pericope proffered for our collective pondering confoundingly suggests that Mary's testimony was shrouded with suspicion and skepticism. As we promenade through the passage lifted today for our hearing, we come face to face with the insidious inner workings of theologies and ideologies that rendered Mary's testimony ineffectual and inadequate. Engulfed by the male gaze, the disciples quickly reduced Mary's stature from credible colleague to a questionable courier, from a chosen vessel to a corroded vehicle. So as Mary pursued purpose, she found herself contending with the court of public opinion. Within a blink of an eye, the radically inclusive, big-hearted ministry of Jesus, which centered the marginalized, found itself sucked into the narrow, rigid confines of the disciples' own biases. And so we are left with one troubling question tormenting this text, one mystifying mess meddling with this message. Why was Mary's witness dismissed, disposed, and discarded? Why was her testimony greeted with disdain and disbelief and disregard? Beloved, by all accounts, Mary was a credible witness. Let me see if I can make my case. Absent of a Juris Doctorate and trial court experience, I'm leveraging my many years of binging Law and Order Special Victims Unit, the longest running primetime U.S. series in the history of television. The series' opening lines are considered to be really famous, and I suspect some of you might know it. It begins like this. In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the I see that there are some folks who watch it every now and then. And for anyone who's an avid watcher, you will know that there are three types of witnesses that the district attorney can call during any case. The first is an eyewitness. This is the most common type. It's a person who watched certain events and described what they saw. The second is an expert witness. This is someone who is educated in a certain area, who testifies with respect to their specialty. But the last kind of witness is the character witness. This is someone who knew the people involved, who can speak to who they are and how they move and what kind of person they've shown themselves to be. Now, I know that there are a lot of folks who have PhDs and perhaps even Juris Doctorates in the room. And so let me be the first to say that I know in first century courts they didn't have district attorneys and they didn't have SBU units and they didn't have these neat categories. But if you would let me preach it how I feel it, I want to drag this text into a 21st century courtroom. And I'd like to call Mary Magdalene to the stand. I'd like to call Mary Magdalene as an eyewitness. The text corroborates her legitimacy as an eyewitness because the Bible says clearly in the morning, Mary went to the tomb of Jesus. Unsatisfied with the rushed and dishonorable burial, Mary sought to embalm the body. And while she was there, she saw the risen body of Jesus. She was a really credible eyewitness. But we also know that Mary Magdalene was, in fact, an expert witness. The Bible says that Mary experienced the delivering power of Jesus for herself. One day, as Mary was plagued with 7 demons, she came across a man named Jesus who casted the demons out of her and gave her a new lease on life. But I'd argue that Mary Magdalene was also a phenomenal character witness. Mary, albeit overshadowed by the other disciples, was in the inner circle of Jesus. She was privy to intimate moments with Jesus and his disciples. She came to know the person and the personality of the one who performed miracles. So even with Mary being a good eyewitness, even with Mary being a good expert witness, even with Mary being a good character witness, the text says she still was not received. In light of the disciples' disbelief, despite Mary's credible credentials, the question demanding our critical examination is this: what is preventing us today from receiving the liberating truth, the deeper wisdom, the invitation to transformation that is right in front of us? It is my fervent and earnest conviction that embedded within this text is one possible reason we struggle to sit with and be receptive to the lived experiences of those whom we see as other. Are you ready for it? Here it is. For some of us, the resistance is not to the truth. It's to the voice that dares to speak it. The text says, later Jesus appeared to the 11 as they were eating. He rebuked them for their lack of faith and their stubborn refusal to believe those who had seen him after he had risen. Mary, a woman, one of the first to see Jesus risen, her story was not believed. It was not seen as credible. And I believe that it wasn't the message, but the messenger. It was not Mary's rhetoric, but the fact that she was the chosen representative that prevented the disciples from hearing the news of a millennia. Let me see if I might be able to press my way. The text fails to identify the first disciples whom Mary encountered. But can you imagine the murmuring of the disciples? Can you imagine the reasons they gave for not believing her? Perhaps it was Andrew. Yes, I can hear him. Andrew could boast of the fact that he was the one who brought the boy who supplied the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Do you hear him saying, I played a pivotal role in feeding 5,000 men, not including women and children, but maybe it wasn't him. Perhaps it was Peter. We know Peter. You don't hear him saying, Jesus changed my name from Simon to Peter and said to me, upon this rock I will build my church. Surely if he were to come back, he would have showed himself to me. Maybe it wasn't Andrew. Maybe it was Peter. Perhaps it was John. Can you hear him saying, on the cross as Jesus was there, Jesus charged me to care for his mother. And so surely if he were to come back, he would have came to see about his mother. The palpable hubris of the disciples is undeniable in this text. Because for them, if Jesus had risen, one of the men would have been the first to know. And just like that, Mary joined a lineage of women who were silenced, siloed, and shunned. Let me pause and park here to say that as a community, all of our hearts should break for Mary, but it should break for every single marginalized community who is often silenced, siloed, and shunned. Our hearts should break for the stories that have not seen the light of day, should break for the bodies that were violated in the dark. It should break for the little girls whose futures were derailed. It should break for the women whose truth have been met with skepticism and suspicion. Our hearts should break. But even in the midst of this tragic manifestation of patriarchal violence, can I tell you the good news? I told y'all, talk back to your boy. Can I tell you the good news? Here it is. Here's the beauty, y'all. Even in the midst of what we have experienced in this text, whether you understand resurrection as a miracle, as a metaphor, or a movement, one central theme emerges. Truth does not stay buried by bias. That's a good place to say amen. The text says that when Jesus arrived, he rebuked their unbelief and hardness of heart. When Jesus showed up on the scene with, dare I say, a gangster lean, he came as the embodiment of a timely rebuke. His presence was Mary's vindication. For all who doubted, they had to come to terms with their dismissal. For all those who rendered Mary's witness as unworthy of being heard had no choice but to lend it credence. All those who sought to silence and to shun had to confront their own conscious and unconscious biases. Jesus' rebuke, then, I contend, is not about belief in and of itself. For some, perhaps. But I believe that it doubles as social commentary on how we approach relationship with the perceived other. It is about the ways we close ourselves off from one another, the ways we protect our own assumptions, the ways we resist being changed by what we hear. So the question pressing in on us this morning is not simply, do you believe the story? It's, do we trust the storyteller? Especially those on the margins. Who have we silenced because we've rendered them invisible or disposable? Who have we ignored because their race or their class or their gender exists on the underside of power? Who have we shunned because their perspective does not advance our comfort, our reputation, or our sense of control? To whom have we caused harm because we decided, consciously or unconsciously, that their voice did not belong in the shaping of our shared life? Because if we sit with it long enough, we might begin to realize that hardness of heart is not just an ancient condition the disciples struggled with. Perhaps it's a present-day practice that sits with many of us. It shows itself in who we interrupt and who we let finish. It shows up in whose data we trust and whose lived experiences we question. It shows up in the quiet calculations we make about credibility before a person even opens their mouth. I'd submit to you today that Jesus' rebuke was not about shaming us, but inviting us to consider some possibilities. What if we've mistaken familiarity for truth? What if our comfort has perhaps curated our convictions? And conversely, what if the societal transformation we seek often emerges from the voices we did not plan to center? So, may this sermonic offering be an invitation an invitation to listen more deeply, to care without criteria, to approach the stories of those on the margins as sacred text, believing that they have something to teach us, not just about spirit or the divine, but how we relate to and with one another. And if we accept that invitation, if we allow ourselves to be changed by what we hear and who we hear it from, then perhaps we can disrupt the insidious and problematic notion that some voices are worthy of being heard and others are not. You might be wondering, why in the world have I gotten to the end of my sermon without naming the title of the message throughout it? It's because I waited for this exact and precise moment. I stated that I wanted to tag the title of our time together as Run and Tell That. Why? It's because it's exactly what Mary did. She told a story that no one wanted to hear. She told a story that she knew likely would not be believed. And yet she told it anyway. I ask you today, first you, what stories have you heard that you've refused to tell? What stories have you borne witness to that you have not recounted? Think of that story, and then I want you to go, run, and tell that. Thank you.
Our sending hymn for today is Wake Now My Senses. It's number 298 in your gray hymnal. We will be singing verses 1, 2, and 4. That's number 298 in the gray hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with the people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race.
I invite you to rise in spirit or in body. And if you are comfortable, there you go. Look, some folk already know where I'm going. I love it. If you are comfortable, grab the person's hands next to you. And I want to offer this benediction. Wait a little while. I see some folks scurrying over. As you go from this place, May your dance never lose its rhythm. May your cup never run dry. May your heart stay soft and your hands stay open. Go in peace. Go in power.